Some time ago, while Alex was exploring a mine shaft, he came across cobblestone, which could mean only one thing: a monster room with a spawner inside. He listened to the sounds in the monster room, and it was then he realized his good fortune. This was a monster room with a skeleton spawner inside. Skeleton spawners will generate in monster rooms a quarter of the time, and they are valuable because it creates an opportunity to spawn an infinite number of skeletons which, when farmed, could yield a large amount of bones. Bone is very valuable because with it, Alex can make bone meal, which is an ingredient for a large number of machines and farms he would like to make. It is used in log farms, flower farms, sea pickle farms, moss farms, and even in the nano farm he built in a previous episode. So today, Alex is making a bone meal farm. And the first step when making such a farm is to deactivate the spawner, which he can do by placing torches on and around the skeleton spawner. The faster he does this, the better, as it limits the time the spawner will have to spawn in skeletons that Alex would then need to kill. The spawner will lie dormant until a player is within 16 blocks of the spawner. But once the player is within 16 blocks, the spawner will activate and spawn in skeletons on a regular basis. As skeletons will only spawn in the dark, placing torches means the spawner will not function, even when the player is within 16 blocks. Spawners will look for a space within 4 blocks of the spawner and randomly choose an available space to generate the skeleton. As we don't want the skeleton to spawn on top of the spawner and to just stand on it, Alex removes this possibility by placing solid blocks above the spawner. He then proceeds to clear a 9x9 area centered around the spawner and also clears 2 spaces below the spawner. Alex will use water streams to collect and push the skeletons to a single point, where he will push them up high using a bubble elevator similar to the one he made for his raid farm, before then dropping them 22 blocks to a kill zone, where they will have taken enough damage that they can be easily killed with one strike. Once the spawning chamber is completed, Alex digs a 3-block deep trench that the skeletons will be pushed into by water streams. In order for the water streams to not interfere with the trench, he places signs over the trench. He removes the edges along the trench and replaces them with stairs, as mobs will generally try to resist water streams when being pushed over an edge, and are less likely to do so when the edge is a stair. He adds a water stream in the trench and discovers that the water does not reach beyond the edge of the spawning chamber, so he makes an adjustment to the trench accordingly. He places fences in the 2 deep hole at the end of the trench, which serves to keep the skeletons a half block lower and easily pushed into the bubble elevator. He uses soul sand he collected in a previous episode and adds signs at the entrance of the bubble elevator to ensure water from the elevator doesn't flow into the trench. He adds a single block space beyond the bubble elevator, so it creates an additional water flow that will pull the skeleton from the fences into the elevator itself. Once the trench is completed, Alex adds the stairs and water flows on either side of the trench. These water flows ensure that no matter where in the spawner chamber skeletons spawn, they will fall into water, which will push them into the trench and then into the bubble elevator. At this point, it is time to go up 34 blocks, which Alex does by using scaffolding. If he encounters any caves, he fills in the walls around the 4 sides of the tunnel. Once reaching the top, Alex goes across a few blocks and then goes straight down to what will become the kill chamber. Once at the bottom, Alex builds a room immediately above the spawner chamber, which is where he will be AFKing when killing the skeletons. When using a looting 3 sword on the skeletons, he will get significantly more bones than if he just lets the skeletons die by themselves. With this farm, both is possible. He can kill them himself, or he can do nothing and just let them die from entity cramming. It's time to remove the scaffolding from the bubble elevator tunnel. Alex places scaffolding up the other tunnel in its place. He adds tinted glass made from amethyst crystals and glass to keep the light out of the spawning chamber, so he can see if skeletons are going up the bubble elevator. He collects water and heads to the top of the bubble elevator and drops water down from the top. He goes to the bottom, places a single kelp on the soul sand and bone meals the kelp until it goes to the top of the tunnel. This converts the flowing water into solid water blocks. Once he breaks the kelp, the solid water converts immediately into a bubble elevator. Alex goes to the top and adds a water flow at the top to push the skeletons to the second tunnel. He tests the mechanism and removes a few blocks at the top to create a 3-high space for the mobs to flow to the end of the upper water flow. Eventually, he then breaks the scaffolding in the fall damage tunnel. It's now time to make the collection system and kill zone at the base of the fall damage tunnel. This consists of a hopper connected to a chest. He places a slab on the hopper, so he has direct line of sight to the feet of the skeletons, and which limits their line of sight so they can't see the player. It's time to test the mechanism. Alex removes the torches on the spawner to begin the process of generating skeletons. He closes up the spawning chamber so no light enters the area, which maximizes how many skeletons spawn in the chamber. Immediately, Alex discovers that the skeletons die by the time they reach the bottom of the full damaged tunnel. So he raises the hopper and slab by 1 block. That works. The skeletons are left with half a heart when landing at the bottom, making it easy for Alex to kill the skeletons. Their drops are collected by the hopper and placed in the chest. The skeleton farm is complete. Alex decorates the AFK room and makes it a bit prettier. Even when not actively killing the skeletons, when more than 24 skeletons accumulate in one space, the 25th skeleton will be automatically killed by the game. This is referred to as entity cramming, and the game kills excess mobs in order to minimize lag to the game. So even when Alex is not killing them, he is still earning bones from the mobs that die. However, when using a looting 3 sword, Alex will get a lot more bones. He will also get other drops from the skeletons, which he is not particularly interested in. Some items, like armor, will clog up the storage, as they will occupy a single inventory slot. So Alex begins work on creating a filter and compression system, so he can AFK long periods without having to empty the chest of unwanted items, keeping only the bones and compacting them into bone blocks, which take 1/3 of the space of bones. He first creates a space next to the spawning chamber for his filter and compression machine. He adds a filter. The filter is a standard filter, built as illustrated here. The filter then feeds the bones to a crafter. The crafter is triggered using two observers facing into each other. Alex deactivates all spaces in the 3x3 crafting grid except for one, so it is only possible to make bone meal out of the bones. To filter bones in the hopper facing the comparator, he places 18 bones in one hopper slot and one of another item in the remaining slots. In this case, dirt blocks. Alex adds a second crafter, which will be used to convert the bone meal into bone blocks. He adds a downward-facing dropper at the end of the double observers and a cauldron underneath, which he fills with lava. This is his disposal system, which will receive all drops that are not bones and incinerate them in the lava. Next, Alex completes the compacting solution as illustrated below, using a comparator, solid block, redstone, repeater, and another solid block. A second comparator faces into the first one, which ensures that the crafter is triggered only when the 3x3 crafting grid is filled with 9 bone meal. He uses a second crafter to set the comparator level by clicking on all 9 slots of the crafter. Next, he adds a dropper elevator to collect the bone blocks and to propel them upwards and back to the AFK room. The dropper elevator is triggered by 2 pairs of observers pointing into each other. Finally, Alex adds a barrel to collect the bone blocks and a hopper line to transport the bone blocks from the top of the dropper elevator. All that remains is to connect the kill chamber to the hopper line that sends the bones and other blocks to the filter. The filter and compactor is complete. Alex covers the exposed hoppers with solid blocks and closes in the area. Alex can now begin collecting bone meal. Join Alex at Noob Friendly and make your own bone meal farm.